3 basic questions you've got about UNRWA and why Israel actually wants to shut it down. Let's go. Number 1, what is UNRWA?
During the creation of the State of Israel in 1948, the militias that became the Israeli army forced more than 750,000 Palestinians out of their homes. In December 1948, the UN General Assembly passed Resolution 194, stating that all Palestinian refugees had the right to return to their homes as soon as possible or receive compensation if they chose not to. And while they waited to go home, the UN set up a special temporary organisation to look after this huge new refugee population, the United Nations Relief and Works Agency, UNRWA. UNRWA doesn't just provide emergency aid, but they also run schools and hospitals, and they even collect the trash. But they're almost always running out of money because they get most of their funds from voluntary donations, not just from states, but also from regular people, just like a charity. And UNRWA also provides jobs. Most of their staff are refugees themselves, just like 70% of Gaza's residents. It's the territory's biggest employer with around 13,000 staff there. So in many ways, UNRWA gives Palestinian refugees what a national government would give you and me.
Number 2, why is the Israeli Prime Minister attacking UNRWA now? In January, Israel accused 12 out of UNRWA's 13,000 Gaza staff members of involvement in the October 7 Hamas attacks.
UNRWA said it had fired several staff and launched an investigation. But when the UK's Channel 4 News gained access to the confidential Israeli document containing the allegations, it found that it actually provided no evidence to back up their claims. And what's more, Israel hasn't shown their intelligence file to the UN either.
UNRWA said that Israel had detained several of its staff members in the Gaza Strip who reported that they'd been tortured and sexually exploited in Israeli custody, and that Israeli forces had questioned some of them about the October 7 Hamas attacks, forcing them to sign confessions under torture.
This isn't even the first time Israel has gone after UNRWA. Both during the 2008 and 2014 wars on Gaza, Israel attacked UNRWA warehouses and facilities, causing massive damage and destroying tons of food and medicine. Israeli attacks have also killed at least 152 UN workers since October 7.
But here's the thing. UNRWA represents a real challenge to Israel because it has receipts.
Remember those 750,000 Palestinian refugees who were forced out of their homes to create the State of Israel? Well, they and their descendants all have a legal right under international law to return to their land, the land that is now Israel.
And guess who has maintained the registration records of nearly 6 million Palestinian refugees worldwide? Yep, UNRWA.
That's why in 2011, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu told a joint session of the US Congress that the Palestinian right of return had to be killed forever.
And worst of all, they continue to perpetuate the fantasy that Israel will one day be flooded by the descendants of Palestinian refugees. My friends, this must come to an end.
What's happening today is an echo of what happened back in 2018. That was when the Trump administration cut UNRWA's funding, and Trump's senior advisor, Jared Kushner, reportedly tried to get UNRWA shut down and remove refugee status from millions of Palestinians.
Number 3, what happens next?
Remember how UNRWA is funded by donations? Well, after the Israeli allegations, at least 16 countries almost immediately suspended funding to the organization.
1 month later, and with UNRWA on the brink of collapse, the EU finally agreed to release some of the funds it had been withholding.
Later, Canada and Sweden also resumed funding. After Israel made the allegations, Netanyahu said the quiet bit out loud that he wants to shut UNRWA down. And following the withdrawal of donations, Israel might get its wish. The organization said it would likely have to end operations soon if funding doesn't restart.
We just have to look back at 2013 to 2014 when UNRWA staff went on strike over wages to see what that could mean.
Back then, people protested as trash piled up in the streets and schools closed. So if Netanyahu's dream comes true, that's what life might look like for 6 million Palestinian refugees, not just in the Gaza Strip, but also in the occupied West Bank and East Jerusalem, Jordan, Lebanon, and Syria.
It would become even harder for millions of Palestinian refugees to access aid and education and healthcare. But remember, they also have a legal right under international law to return to the land that Israel forcibly expelled them from. And Israel wants to solve that problem by destroying UNRWA, hoping that it would make it impossible for those Palestinian refugees ever to return home.